And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LeoGaming Reviews for the Casuals. Today I'm going to review Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, developed by Ubisoft, and how it fares in 2020. This is going to be a personal review and not a professional one. I'm not going to go into specs or performance issues, frame rates, etc. Like I said, this is more of a casual review for the casual gamer and will be my personal experience of the game. Now, this game is about a large organisation called the Santa Blanca Cartel that have taken over most of Bolivia in order to produce and export cocaine. You are part of a team called the Ghosts and are sent in as a team of 4 to break down and destroy this cartel, including their top dog, El Sueño. Now, I'm going to do this differently to normal reviews. I'm going to do the pros and the cons, but start with the cons first. Right, the cons. I found that walking around the mountainous terrain to be somewhat difficult at times, especially when trying to climb a section of mountain in which you start at the bottom and plot your way up to find that halfway up there's a section that the game won't allow you to climb. Even though there were steeper or more higher ledges, you have just climbed to get to that point, so I found it very hard to determine which areas of terrain could be climbed. Also to do with terrain, but more with vehicle drop-offs from the rebels, I found that when requesting a chopper from the rebels, it would be dropped about a mile away from you. At this point you would have to run 5 minutes to get to the chopper. I found this very annoying throughout the game. I mean, I can see why what they have done. They have clearly made the mechanics so that the chopper will land on the nearest, flattest point to you. But the problem with that is the terrain you're in. Most of it is not flat, so it will always land a distance away from you, almost rendering the mechanic pointless, as you could probably find a chopper about the same distance away without requesting one from the rebels. Now, the next one is to do with the story and the bosses. I found that there was never much emphasis on the bosses or bouchons. I mean, you would complete all the missions leading up to the final mission of that province, in which I found that it would be just a repeat of one of the missions you've already done, just either killing or capturing the boss. I didn't find it very rewarding. Yes, you got a few skill points in a weapon, but the overall feel wasn't very satisfying for a boss fight technically. Maybe they could have done some sort of cutscene similar to Metal Gear Solid before you fight the boss, and then maybe a cutscene after you killed or captured the boss, similar to Assassin's Creed when you have that confirmed kill cutscene after an assassination. Not saying there has to be an over-the-top scripted play, but at least what I said would have given the bouchons more character and meaning to what and why they are doing this. Continuing with this theme, I also found that there were never any consequences to killing a boss, either in the environment or the story. By this I mean once you'd cleared out most of the bases and camps of enemies in the province, once you'd killed the boss of that area, all the enemies would respawn back in. In reality, that wouldn't happen so quickly. Yes, you could have a few enemies scattered about, but not entirely where every base is back to normal. Plus, would El Sueño hear his bosses have been killed and do nothing about it? I don't think so. Maybe they could have introduced a mechanic like in Far Cry 5, where after you've done a certain amount, they send a hit squad that can only kill you from the air. Maybe something similar to that, where El Sueño would send an attack squad to hunt you down. That would have made the environment more believable and that your actions had consequences. Next on the list is the side missions. I found that to start with, there was a good variation of side missions which made the beginning of the game enjoyable. But there is a midsection of the game where once you have done the different variations of side missions, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into with each one. This makes the midsection of the game a bit of a slog to get to the end. Again, I think if there was consequences to your actions within the environment, then the side missions would not have felt so much of a slog, as then not only are you killing the normal enemies, but you will have an attack squad after you as well during the side missions, giving more variation to the gameplay. Now, this next one could only be just me, but I found that the weapon parts that you collect around the map to be slightly annoying. The reason for this is because looking for a 30-round magazine for my assault rifle for the G36C, I then found one in which was actually for another assault rifle I did not have. Now, this is not a massive deal, but I think where I've played the Division game so much, there you find a weapon part which generally fits more than just one weapon. This game, each weapon part is separate and it has to be found separately. Right, the last point with the cons is the customization. Now, when I say customization, I mean just the face creation. All you have is the available presets, which for a game that has a lot of customization for everything else is really surprising. I think they could have done maybe an EA style face designer where you could adjust your facial features to either create yourself or any character you wanted. Would have felt more like you're playing as yourself rather than just the preset characters that are available. Now, moving on to the pros. I'll be honest, I think this is a beautiful, massive open world sandbox that recreates Bolivia with finesse. The environment is just really easy to the eye, and I found that not once did I get bored of travelling this landscape. There were many moments I felt I could have stopped and took a screenshot of the view. There is typically, for a Ubisoft title, so much to see and do. In regards to gameplay, I found that the stealth and tactical elements to be very rewarding and enjoyable. I love the fact that you have the option to approach each mission or base in any way you see fit, be that parachuting from helicopter to sneak in undetected, or just plainly go all out firing at every enemy you see. The options are there for you to create. Along with this, the stealth element was my favourite approach. I loved the planning and recon you could do using the drone, the binoculars, and tagging each enemy before you made your approach. Also spotting different entry points and using vantage points to gain the upper hand in each battle. Continuing with this, I will admit, I used the sync shots a hell of a lot. I found this feature to be a delight to perform as well as realistic. I have heard some people complain that the sync shots feature makes the game too easy, but let's be honest, they would use this method in real life. Plus, there was a certain amount of skill to perform this, as you still had to make sure there was no other enemies within the vicinity of the enemies you are syncing up. Otherwise, they would still hear the shots and be alerted to your presence. Now, a big bonus feature in this game for me was the inclusion of the Rainbow, Sandfisher and Predator missions that were added. This to me created a welcome break from the story mode and gave you something else to concentrate on, and also made the world feel as if it was alive, and that what you were doing was not the only important operation going on, thus creating a more lived in world. Personally, my favourite was the Predator mission. Now, being a fan of the older Predator movies, I really enjoyed it. I felt this was well done and integrated into the game world itself, and really matched the environment of Bolivia. The mission itself, granted, doesn't have much variation, but let's be honest, this is not a Predator game. Even if you started the mission and then gave up, you could fly across the same part of jungle and hear the roar of the Predator recreate brilliantly, echoing around you from the jungle. The music was also included, you know, the da 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 da. I found this really made me immersed more into the world of Bolivia. The next pro is the loading screens, or should I say lack of. The only loading screen I had was the initial game start from the main menu. Apart from when you had a mission failed or was killed, there was no other loading screens. I've heard people say the initial loading screen takes too long, but just look what it has to load. I had no problems with any loading screens whatsoever. Moving on to the fact that your character has a voice. Now, this to me, being a massive Division fan, where for some odd reason they didn't put a voice into the character, this game your character has a voice and dialogue. This just adds to the immersion rather than just being a mute. Lastly, the vehicles. Being completely honest, I found traversing the landscape with a land vehicle really fun and easy to use. Now, the game is not a driving game, so the driving is not completely realistic, but I never really had any problems with driving. Yes, sometimes I would get stuck, but in reality you would get stuck in certain places anyway, like trying to drive up a steep rock face. Flying the helicopter was also really fun and was my main method of travelling. Flying the choppers was really easy to pick up, although I did crash a few times trying to be really clever and land quickly, sometimes approaching a base, which if you want to do that takes a bit of practice. Now, flying the planes was okay, but I did find that you were blindsided a lot when trying to turn into a rebel runway. More because of, I think, the way the camera works and the basic mechanics of flying the plane. The plane would dip as you tried to turn the camera to see where the runway was, at the same time as turning the plane into the runway path. I had many crashes trying to complete this particular side mission. So that is the end of my personal review for this game. Like I have said, these are just my personal points that I've noticed or experienced while playing. I will add that this game, even though there are a few more cons, they are very small cons, and I would suggest buying this game and playing it for some hours. I played it for a hell of a lot of hours and picked it up at a bargain for £9 from Xbox Store. I will have missed a lot of points out, but feel free to let me know your own experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. My next video will be more specific about each vehicle and how it controls and feels within the game. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.